Hi Credo, my name is Natalie Shearer. I'm a pianist and I actually worked for Credo for several years in Chicago. Right now I'm a doctoral student at University of Michigan and I'm happy to share some thoughts on practicing with you today. Some of these will be reminders, I'm sure, and maybe something will be a new thing to consider. So first of all, motivation. I think there are always times where we can struggle with motivation to practice, and that can be for a number of different reasons. But I've always found that if I'm going through one of those days or one of those periods, if I think about what inspires me as a musician and have go-to pieces that I can sit down and play, that I know I always love playing this piece, it always brings me joy, it always reminds me why I love to play, that can be a really great way to combat feeling like you're not inspired to practice. So take a break from whatever it is that you're currently working on and play something that you love. That's a surefire way to bring you joy. And going along with that, it can be helpful too to have maybe a list of recordings or videos that also spark that inspiration. Take a listen, take a break and watch that. And it's amazing what that will do for you. And I've found that's really helped me many times before. Another thing I would say would be watch out for the little things that can derail a practice session. So for me, I know that I need to have a sweater, a snack, a water bottle, a phone charger. I need to have those things with me in the practice room, because if I get too hungry, too thirsty, if I'm cold, those are the types of things that can be incredibly distracting, at least for me personally. And so if I'm prepared, I can combat those and not let a practice session be wasted because I need to go find food on campus somewhere or whatever. So don't let those little problems get in your way. Be prepared with what you need, and that it might be different for you. And I always I tend to try to keep my phone plugged in somewhere away from the piano and just set an alarm, so I can't use the excuse that I'm using it to check my clock, because otherwise I'll get distracted with my phone. Another thing that I do when I have a lot of music on my plate to prioritize, because I'm often juggling chamber music and an opera that I'm learning, or pieces with a singer for a recital that's coming up, and my own lesson music. It's so much to figure out how to prioritize that. So sometimes I will physically put the music that I've decided is the priority in the front of my binder, so that when I open it up, that's the first thing I see. It makes it really easy to sit down and prioritize that first in my practice session. And of course, you can always flip to something else, but somehow symbolically, it also kind of clarifies in my mind, this is what is important right now. That was actually something that I did when I was preparing for my audition for my doctoral degree. It helped me to make that decision in my mind and have my binder kind of reflect that. And then I think the other thing I would say is that I think about two statements quite a bit. One is one is that assumptions are the termites of relationships. Take some time to think about that. It is a very, very helpful quote to consider for relationships, obviously, and other parts of your life. But I think it also applies to practicing, and I'll get to that in just a second. The other thing I think about is, what am I pretending not to know? So basically, both of these things are getting at the importance of self-awareness and honesty in the practice room. I need to be willing to figure out and identify what parts of a piece are weaker, what parts am I kind of wanting to avoid. And you have to press into those places and be willing to prioritize those so that they get polished and they come up to the same level as other parts of the piece, Or sometimes this is something where maybe you really love practicing one piece on your program and there's another piece that you're kind of putting on the back burner. Well, you don't want that to come back and cause problems for you later as you're preparing for your next performance. And obviously this is common sense, but I think those are helpful ways to frame your practicing from a mental standpoint, because a lot of being a successful musician has to do with mindset and with your perspective. So I hope these things are inspiring to you. I hope they're helpful, and give yourself grace as you're practicing, especially during this time. This is such a strange circumstance and time to be living, but I hope that you can use it to be more introspective and more intentional with the way that you practice and try new things, experiment. And I think above all, use this time to grow in self-awareness so you know what works for you, and you can keep maturing and growing in this journey. So I hope you have a great rest of your day at Credo. Thanks.